So we began on Tuesday and we'll continue on studying the Eightfold Path. We're gonna want to recommend that this book, if you don't have it on your library shelf, The Heart of the Buddha's Teaching, Transforming Suffering into Peace, Joy, and Liberation, Thich Nhat Hanh. I highly recommend it. It won't let you down. And any question you have will about basic Buddhist teachings are in here. It's really wonderful. And I'll call on it some. What I'm mostly going to use, and I'm excited to use, is called the Eightfold Path. Just by coincidence. Edited by GKO Cheryl Wolfer, and introduction by Bayukran Judith Regier. It's the third in a series of books that were compiled by women Zen teachers, thinking that women's voices and teachings need to be brought forward, because they're going to say, actually I read some of this on Tuesday, is that often women's intelligence, without over generalizing, never want to do that, is more intuitive, and so therefore maybe more easily aligned with Buddhist teachings, not linear and top down. But we need all the voices, and we need all different kinds of intelligences. But I'm really happy that we're going to be bringing forward these voices. I'm going to read you. I read this part on Tuesday, but I think I'm going to do it again because this is GKO Cheryl Wolfer, who's the editor. And I think the most fundamental way, what I want to bring forward today is the middle way. You heard about the middle way. What is the middle way? I think, let me just say, there is suffering in the world. There is suffering. And we are living in a time gun violence, racial violence, police violence, climate crisis. We all know part of what brings us here.
Chris, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're having some sound issues.
Sound is not great echoing.
It is not just you, those of you. I've turned off original sound for musicians.
Is that any, I just turned it up. Does that matter? No, oh, it's not bomb. Oh, it's got a bomb. Is that better? No? No, they all saying that.
Oh, well, that's a shame.
Everybody's in
I
agreement.
thought it was that easy.
I'm on. Got any ideas about what I should do?
Yeah, we're not picking up the mic. Hang on. Oh, now we are. I see. One moment, please.
Now I got it. You got it? Is that better? Any better?
Yep.
Yahoo. Okay, great. Okay, I was just saying there is suffering. There's always been suffering, but it's not so we're living in difficult times. The Bodhisattva vows are the root and the ground of appropriate response. The Eightfold Path is the how-to of it. It's very, in a certain way, the Theravadins and the early Buddhist teachings are very human. They're very grounded. And then maybe they got a little too tight. And then Mahayana came in with the Bodhisattva vows and big teachings about emptiness. It's not what you think it is. But you can kind of float away in that. That could be what is called these days a spiritual bypass. It's like everything's fine. It's all empty of any inherent self-existence. So what is this middle way? Of it's not what you think it is, and pay attention and show up. And how do we do this in a way that comes from a bodhisattva's heart of caring for all beings, of saving all beings, and there's no beings to save. So I am finding myself particularly, well, we just did the Heart Sutra and the emptiness teaching. So it seems like a beautiful kind of counterbalance or balance to now be doing the Eightfold Path. And that's the way we'll approach it, is the Buddha is talking to us directly in this time. Kyrie Nichols. Don't skip it. And what's a bodhisattva to do? What's the appropriate response? So here we go. Okay, having said that, that's why I'm really happy that we're doing this, because I don't know what to do. And I do know what to do. We're going to study the Eightfold Path, like our lives and the life of the whole world depends on it. But as Suzuki Roshi said, what we're doing is way too serious to take ourselves too seriously. Okay, so we'll find our way together. From the preface, the Buddha's foundational teaching of the Eightfold Path delineates the fundamental guidelines for anyone who contemplates embarking on a pilgrimage of the Buddha way, or indeed any spiritual path. It provides a trailhead, a starting point from which to engage the practice of the Buddha's teachings. For the Buddha way is a practice. The Buddha way is a practice, not a set of prescriptions. As such, it must be actualized with the body and mind in this moment to be fully known. In his commentary, again, I did this on Tuesday, in his commentary on the Heart Sutra, there we are, Red Pine, speaking of the early Buddhist, says, the Buddhist teachings were referred to as a system of training. Thus, Buddhism is better understood as a skill or an art to be practiced and perfected, rather than as information or knowledge to be learned and amassed. Simply reading a description of the path or the sutras will not provide that experience. To internalize and embody the Dharma, the teachings must be put into practice in this world of dissatisfaction and suffering. These teachings highlight the inherent uncertainty of following a path with no destination. Sorry. There's no destination. It's inherently uncertain. And where there's no clear signage, go this way, go that way. Where the landscape shifts in every moment and where every step involves examination of intentions, motivations, and possible outcomes. Every moment, what's the appropriate response? What is it? They also emphasize how misunderstandings can arise when Buddhist practices such as mindfulness are separated from traditional understandings of these practices. Part of what's happening with mindfulness being brought into the secular world without the deeper teachings underneath them. The pilgrimage never journeys alone. The pilgrim never journeys alone, but is embraced by the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, that function as a compass to keep the pilgrim's feet on the path. Keep your feet on the path. Feel your feet. You get confused, you get scared, you get lost. Feet on the earth, breath. You can't go wrong. Still, the traveler is solely responsible to take compass readings at regular intervals. Four Noble Truths. I confessed on Tuesday. I don't think I'm the only one. That I think someplace along the way, maybe Zen people in particular, we kind of, I'll just take responsibility. The Four Noble Truths just seemed way too simple. It's like, yeah, I got that. Now I think the Four Noble Truths, the Four Noble Truths. Okay, so the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths teaching is believed to be the Buddha's first discourse. This is the first thing he said. After Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha's family name, left the palace and his secular life, his intention was to achieve a spiritual breakthrough. His first teachers were the Hindu and Brahmin teachers of his time. He did many years of ascetic practices. He lived in the forest. He barely ate. I was going to skip this part because I'm just picking and choosing the parts that I'm telling, but somehow I want to tell this story. These stories are feeling important because they're really human. Siddhartha Buddha was a human being who put his feet on the path and who made lots of mistakes along the way that weren't mistakes because it was all part of it, just like all of us. So somehow these simple stories seem really, really important. Stories go in a different kind of way, you know. He had a very strenuous religious discipline. At one of the turning points in his religious life, he appeared to be starving almost to the point of death. There are very alarming statues and drawings of an emaciated skeleton-like Buddha. Buddha didn't mess around. Like, I decided I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. His ribs are totally exposed and he has no body fat at all. At this pivotal point, Siddhartha decided that the way of the ascetics was not working for him. He was no closer to enlightenment than before, and he decided to change his practice, and the middle way was born. I would like to say that most of us probably aren't so disciplined in our spiritual practice that we're stopping eating. But I would say in our time, maybe the way that we do this to ourselves is the way we talk to ourselves. We starve ourselves of nourishment and kindness. Like, why don't you get it more together? There's an internal way that we do this. This is an important story. I also think that because it occurred to me this morning too, because I think it's an ongoing question of the news and the news of the world is like, is it okay if you're not reading every single word of the news and watching 3 different channels of TV? I mean, how much should you, it's an aesthetic practice to just take in the horror of the news. But can you just go over it and not know what's going on? What's the middle way here? How do we do this? I mean, you can take this in probably a million different ways, but those are the 2 that occurred to me that maybe it's important in this time for us to pay attention to. The middle way. So maybe I'm not going to read this story because I want to say some other things too. Anyway, it's a great story. I gave you some summation of it. Okay, I'll read the story. Okay. The story of the first discourse from the Dhammakappavattana Sutta. The Buddha said, "It is not easy to attain enlightened happiness with a body so excessively emaciated. It is not so easy to attain enlightened happiness with a body so excessively emaciated, with a mind so excessively emaciated, with a heart so excessively emaciated." And so he ate some boiled rice and porridge. He let in nourishment, kindness, the generosity of another being who just happened to be a woman. When he ate this, the 5 monks who were practicing with him were disgusted and left, thinking, the ascetic Gautama now lives luxuriously. He has given up the striving and reverted to luxury. You ever feel that way? I'm happy. Maybe I don't deserve to be happy. Maybe there's something wrong here. Maybe I'm not doing this seriously enough. You're reverting to luxury. You're reverting to some simple worldly happiness or pleasure. But the Buddha did not give up. He sat under the Bodhi tree with the commitment that he would sit until he understood and could verify the truth about human life. He didn't give up. It wasn't what everybody else was doing. He had to find and trust his own body intuition, which was sit down, feel the ground in the body with all beings. Not about withdrawing. It's not about losing yourself. Sit down. After his experience meditating under the Bodhi tree, during which time he wrestled with Mara, the embodiment of human temptations, he saw the morning star and saw the truth of life with clarity. And afterwards, he decided that there was no way he could teach what he had learned because it was too subtle and unattainable by mere reasoning. No one would get it. If it was not understandable by thinking, he concluded that no one would believe him. That's a great sentence. If it was not understandable by thinking, he concluded that no one would believe him. If this isn't logical, if I can't prove it to you through linear thinking, you're not going to believe me. As soon as the Buddha's thought reached the mythological realms very quickly and spontaneously, the Brahma Sampati, the most senior of the Maha deities, became very concerned for the world. He appeared before the Buddha and encouraged the Buddha to teach. Brahma Sahampata said to the Buddha, "Venerable sir, let the Blessed One teach the Dhamma. Let the Sublime One teach the Dharma. There are beings with little dust in their eyes who are perishing through not hearing the Dhamma. There will be those who will understand the Dhamma." On hearing this, the Buddha changed his mind and began to search for someone to teach. Don't think everybody out there is too stupid to understand your most sublime and alive human heart. You're not the only one who cares. Everybody cares. And we're all entering it the way we can. And the question then is, what's the appropriate response? What is it? What is this teaching that is embodied? Person to person, moment after moment. The Buddha thought about this. To whom should I first teach the Dhamma? Who will understand this Dhamma quickly? It then occurred to the Buddha that Alara Kalama, one of his previous teachers, could understand. The deities heard this and approached the Buddha and said, Allah Kamala died 7 days ago. Oh, what a loss, the Buddha thought. See, Buddha got discouraged and depressed too. Oh, this is too hard. Contemplating again, who would understand? The Buddha thought of Udaka Ramaputta, another former teacher. But the deities told him that Udaka Ramaputta had died during the night. Strange. The Buddha thought again, and then he thought perhaps the 5 ascetics, the 5 monks whom he had practiced austerities with prior to his turnaround, could probably hear his new teaching. And so he set out for Varanasi in the deer park at Isipanana. He met Vajaka Upata, called the naked ascetic, on the road between Gaya and Bodhi. And even though he gave a teaching to him, Ajaka Upaka shook his head and turned away and departed. Oh, I'm glad we're reading this story. The Buddha did not have a golden pass. Buddha Siddhartha was a human being, but he continued on. And finally, the Buddha saw that he was approaching the 5 monks. The monks saw him coming and agreed among themselves. Friends, here comes the ascetic Gautama who lives luxuriously, who gave up his striving and reverted to luxury. We should not pay homage to him or rise up for him or receive his bowl or outer robe. But a seat may be prepared for him. If he likes, he may sit down. You ever feel that way in your family? Sorry. You really don't have it, but you have a seat at the table. But we're probably doing the same thing to other people in our family. Or, I mean, it's like we're all the parts of this. Let's take responsibility for all of it. However, as he approached, they found that they could not keep up their pact. One took his bowl and outer robe, another prepared a seat, another set out water for him, and they called the Buddha friend. And the Buddha said, "You can't call me friend." I mean, this is different than I think what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago about spiritual friends. It's like by calling him friend, that it was a way to diminish that there was a Buddha in front of them. It's like I could call you my friend and you're my spiritual shining Buddha friend who I'm learning in mutuality with all the time, or I could call you my little friend. The Buddha said, "You can't call me friend because I am the Tathagata and have attained the truth. Monks do not address the Tathagata by name and as friends. And as friend, I shall teach you the Dhamma. The Tathagata has not reverted to luxury, nor has he given up his strivings. The Tathagata has achieved the enlightenment and can teach you and practice with you." And so the 5 monks and the Tathagata began to live together, living simply, begging for food, and listening to the teachings. And soon, as the story goes, the 5 monks achieved an unshakable liberation. I'm noticing more and more the way the Dharma is entering the social realm, socially engaged realm, is people are emphasizing freedom and liberation. Because it kind of, I mean, it aligns. So what is freedom? What is it that we want for all beings? What is this freedom? In the first discourse, the Buddha corrected what he called the 2 extremes. The first extreme is to pursue happiness through sensual pleasures without thought of any spiritual discipline. The second extreme is to have a severe sense of discipline, which may lead to self-mortification. The Buddha said both of these extremes did not lead him to enlightenment, and then he began to teach the middle way and to expound the 4 noble truths. First truth. There is suffering in a human life. Can't get around it. I stopped there because I didn't want to just say the words, I wanted to feel it. There's suffering in every human life. If you're born, it's going to be sickness, aging, death. And who knows what the particulars are of each lifetime. Nobody can escape this. 2, second noble truth. The way Judith Bergier says, is we cling to a personal desire system. We all have our own little personal systems. We like it, we want it, we have passion for it, we dislike it, there's anger, there's aggression, there's neutrality, which is ignorance, which is holding on to an idea of self and an automatic pilot and being in denial. We all do it, study it. Third, the personal desire system can be released. And fourth, the 3 bases, living the eightfold path to well-being. Okay, so let's, I'm going to take a few minutes here and launch us into the the Eightfold Path. So, Kristen, can you put that up, please? Kristen's going to put on screen Judith Regier created this image. So the three bases. One is wisdom. One is ethics. One is concentration. It's coming. I'll just talk while it's coming. It's described as the three legs of the stool. So again, there's balance. We're not talking about extremes. We're talking about finding balance. It's like when you sit, you find balance. You find a posture that's balanced on the earth. There we go. All three have to be stable and strong. She says, and I think there's truth to it, it's a way to correct problems of imbalance in our sanghas and our personal practices. You can be a really good meditator, but if it's not balanced by wisdom, it's not going to penetrate our action. It's just like you come here, you sit, well, that was fine. Okay, well, now what happens when you stand up off your cushion? When your actions are more and more integrated and aligned with understanding and wisdom, we become better human beings in the world. So you can see under prajna wisdom, right view and right intention. Samadhi, concentration, right mindfulness, right concentration, which is right meditation. Sila, ethics, right speech, right action, right livelihood, and right effort, which is usually under concentration, she thinks is the really important point of balance here, is what is this middle way of right effort? Not too tight and not too loose. Right effort could be described as diligence, enthusiasm, optimism, vigor. We also know those in the paramitas. It's the middle way. And right, what is this right? Right this, right that, right that.
But first,
Yeah,
these, under the prajna, samadhi, and sila,
yeah,
then there's those, what you're talking about, the right effort, right view, all those.
Right.
Those are the components of
Yes.
the Eightfold Path.
yes, thank
right?
you. That's yes. So right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration are the Eightfold Path. So let me go on just a little bit more here. Right, the root word of right, or the derivation of it is sama, which means to go along with, or to go together, or to turn together. And it originally comes from a term that means to unite. So right doesn't mean right as opposed to wrong. It's I mean, to me, it's always a backward step. It's just like stepping into right alignment, right harmony with the whole world, with everything that is and isn't in this moment. Just here. What is it? Because you can't say, well, this worked now, and then try to do that for the rest of your life. It's an ongoing practice. Okay, so I'm just going to read you. Maybe, I hope we'll have a minute. Okay, and I'm going to put this in the newsletter too, and we'll probably be alluded. It's really simple graphic. But let's go back on screen so we can see each other. The Eightfold Path opens with the wisdom teachings of right view and right intention, sometimes called right thought. Right view is the change of operation in our minds and perceptions that allow true understanding. Pema Chodron says it quite simply. Wisdom is knowing what helps and what hurts. Wisdom is knowing what helps and what hurts. And sometimes Often you only find that out because you think you were being really helpful, and then you look at the person or situation you thought you were trying to help, and it just doesn't look. So then that's why it's just like the next mode. Okay, what's next? What's next? Right intention comes out of our deep understanding of the Four Noble Truths. The content of our thoughts and our intentions directs our actions. Study your thoughts. How much are we processing the world through negative thought processes? I do. I didn't get it. I just wanted to go away. I just take a breath. What's my intention? With the wise discernment of the first base of prajna or wisdom, we can turn to our actions in life. Sila or ethics concerns itself with right speech, right behavior, sometimes called right action, and right livelihood. We're going to study all of these individually. The precepts are deeply connected with this base. It's why we study the precepts forever. The manifestation of the Bodhisattva vow. We learn how to behave like a Buddha in the world. The importance of our behavior is demonstrated in a deep way in Zen. Most Zen ceremonies, there we are again, forms and rituals, are in essence an upholding of the precepts. The core teaching in each ceremony is the receiving of the precepts. The last base is that of samadhi or concentration. It includes right meditation or one-pointedness and right mindfulness. Classically, right effort would be included in this base. Concentration is the ability to place our mind where we want it to be. We can hold our mind on one point. I want to know where to place it. There, no. In the aliveness of this very moment. That's all. The aliveness of this very moment. Learning to concentrate the mind gives us the power to observe our actions and to make sure they align with our wise understanding. Right meditation is learning how to do zazen and how to increase our ability to receive the moment as it is in non-activity. Right mindfulness is learning how to keep our mind on the present moment in activity. Both of these limbs give us strength and steadfastness, deeply grounding all our actions in now. Continuous practice. Continuous practice. Continuous practice. We move from a mind of complaint to a mind of gratitude. And then naturally, we are living the Bodhisattva vows. Beings are numberless, I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. Buddha's way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it, become it, wake up to it, embody it. This is the way to end suffering. We train ourselves to hold our life in the biggest view possible. The whole dynamic working of the universe helps us at every turn. The whole world is here to help us. Everything is here to help us wake up. We are at once completely ourselves, and our life is completely its own life. Yet simultaneously, we view our life from the vantage point of the Buddha's eyes. For Buddhists, practice of the Eightfold Path is an examination of what it means to be a part of the way. I think this is so cool. It's like there's no signposts, but there are signposts. It's just, you just can't hang on to them. just this. And it's why we need each other and why we need the whole world. And why all those problems are just, Suzuki Roshi, you have the problems you have right now are just the right amount of problems, and you'll have them for the rest of your life. It's funny and sad and poignant and tender. And the more the more you know it, the more you want to live by vow. What helps and what hurts. So maybe looking at let's see here. How about, let's do this, because I don't think we have time to go into groups. People could, you could call out, I could call on you on screen, or you can call out here, or you could put it in chat. The middle way. What's another phrase or word, or what arises for you right now? If you were going to take a little signpost that is going to be moving all the time, but what's the heart and the ground of the middle way?